Okay, why you should start investing right now. All right, we're going to get into this one, but as always, before we do, if you find my content valuable, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. All right, why you should start investing right now. As I think about this one, there is every single excuse not to get started investing right this minute. There's so much going on in the economy right now. It is difficult. I'm thinking about today. Today is my birthday. In fact, 1 year ago, I made a video about trying to become debt-free. And I had written down a goal. I wanted to be debt-free on my birthday last year. I didn't quite make it. It took me till the end of June, early July, to become totally debt-free. But now I am completely debt-free. No car payment, no house payment, none of those bills are there for me now. Yet, even having that kind of head start, if you will, I am feeling the economy. I am feeling higher gas prices. I am feeling the challenge of having higher utility bills, higher insurance, higher taxes on my home. All of these different things I'm feeling. And I'm having to go in there and budget and make adjustments so that I can stay on the track of investing for my future, investing for retirement, or what I like to call that opportunity and options phase of your life, where your assets can pay for your lifestyle. And you need motivation. You need to get up off of the couch, or you need to get past procrastination to actually get into saving and investing. But it's absolutely worth it to get that done. And what I want to do in this video is to give you something that I found is a motivator for me. And also, I talk to young people where I work. In fact, I'm in San Benito right now. I had to run some errands. I'm at this park, has a lake in the middle, and we kind of started off. There's a pavilion over there, but a nice park here in San Benito. So anyway, you need to have that motivation, okay? And what I use is something that I learned from the Money Guide to help with the young people that I talk to, and anybody I talk to for that matter, to have some motivation to get started today, to get started right now. And what this concept is that I learned from the Money Guy is the Wealth Multiplier. And so you can ask yourself, what is my Wealth Multiplier, okay? Now I'm gonna digress a little bit. There's certain things that you want to have done. You want to definitely have a starter emergency fund. You want to get rid of debt, okay? And then once you actually have a starter emergency fund, if you do have a company match at work and something like a 401k, you want to take advantage of that. But you also want to work on getting rid of debt, okay? So yes, once you actually have a starter emergency fund, maybe you have that company match where you work, go ahead and take advantage of that, but you want to get rid of credit card debt. If you have payday loans, things like that, you want to get rid of all of that high interest debt. Then ASAP, you want to get started investing, because I heard this from a manager when I was actually thinking about going into management at the grocery store that I was working at. At the time, I was in my very early 30s, okay? And one of the things that this manager said is, Tim, we're not getting any younger. It's time to actually put your stake in the ground, he said, and actually start to make progress with your career. Because tomorrow, you're just going to get older and older, and that time horizon to build your actual career will get shorter and shorter and shorter as you get older. And that really made me think. But on top of that, when you're talking about personal finance, your wealth multiplier shrinks and shrinks as you get older and older. And I don't want to be negative here, because it's really always the glass is half full rather than half empty. But the point is the best time to get started is right now. Well, the very best time to get started was yesterday. But the next best time is today. So you want to get started as soon as possible. So let's talk about this wealth multiplier. Basically, the idea of the wealth multiplier is, what can your dollars be, today's dollars? What would today's dollars turn into if you were to invest in something like an S&P 500 fund? All an S&P 500 fund is investing in the stock market, getting a little piece of ownership of a lot of companies that you probably use already. Have you ever shopped at Walmart? Do you have an Apple phone in your pocket right now? Have you ever eaten at McDonald's? If you've done any of those things, you already have the products and you're already buying products or eating, in the case of McDonald's, in a restaurant there, you may as well own a piece of it. So if you own something like the S&P 500, what that wealth multiplier says, that if you are investing in a broad-based index fund like that, from right now, wherever you're at your age, to your retirement age, or again, I like to call that the opportunity and options phase of your life. If you invest from now till that time, which here in America, that's around 65 years of age, what will a dollar invested now turn into in the future? And that's kind of what the wealth multiplier is getting at, okay? So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's go over this. What does a dollar for you at your age turn into by retirement at around age 65 here in America is kind of the retirement age, okay? Let's go through this, okay? The wealth multipliers. If you're 20 years old, and a lot of the folks that I work with are 20 years old or younger, okay? So it's very exciting at 20 years old. $1 saved at 20 years old turns into $88.35. Now let this sink in, okay? If you're 20 years old and you put $1 into something like an S&P 500 fund, the top 500 companies in America, which you're buying a little piece of ownership, $1 of that ownership turns into being worth $88.35 by the time you retire if you're 20 years old, okay? Now keep that in mind. Now let's look at if you're 25 years old. If you're 25 years old, $1 turns into $44.04. Again, at 20, it was $88.35. At 25, it goes down to $44.04, okay? Less than half of what you would have when you were 25, or 20 rather, at 25. Let's go to 30. If you wait till you're 30 years old to start investing, then every dollar that you put in can turn into $23.06 by the time you retire, okay? Let's push through these others, okay? If you're 35 years old, then $1 will turn into $12.69. If you're 40 years old, then $1 will turn into $7.34. If you're 45 years old, $1 would turn into $4.46, okay? If you're 50 years old, $1 turns into $2.85. And if you're 55 years old, kind of where I'm at, a little bit older than that, then $1 turns into $1.91, okay? Let's kind of put on the brakes there. So if you're 55 years old, okay, it means that $1 turns into $1.91, but let's round that up a little bit. So $1 basically turns into $2 if you were to invest that in something like an S&P 500 fund and did that from age 55 to age 65, approximately 10 years. That's still very powerful to have $1 basically turn into $2, okay? And we'll go ahead and go to 60 years old. At 60 years old, $1 can turn into $1.35, okay? But think about that 20-year-old. Their $1 turns into $88.35. So if you're listening to me and you're 20 years old, take advantage of that. Dig in, okay? If you're 30 years old, Still, that's $23.06 that $1 turns into. So every $1 you put in now at 30 years old turns into $23.06. This should give you some excitement to get going. But there's a caution as well, okay? Because some of you, again, you're not 20 years old, you're not 30 years old, you're like me. You're 50 plus years old, okay? Again, don't look at it where you envy the 20-year-old and that just puts you on the sidelines. Oh, you know, you throw your hands up, you know. I can't get $88 from $1. At 50 years old, though, you can get $2.85, almost $3 for every dollar that you put in right now. So think about the glass being half full. Save what you can right now. Take advantage of what you can, because you will never be as young as you are right now, even if that young is 50 or 55 plus years old. That's the youngest you're going to be. Also think about it. I think about myself, okay? Now, I did take advantage of my company match in my 30s, but I didn't really turn on the steam with my wealth building and investing until I was 50 years old. But as I learned these concepts, I thought about it. I'm 50 years old. That means that 65 was 15 years away. I could either cry about being 50 years old, or I could take advantage of that threefold compounding of every dollar that I put in at 50 years old. So you don't want to envy the 20-year-old. Just be positive about where you're at and your particular wealth multiplier and take advantage of it, okay? And there is one other thing I'll mention but before I close this video. There's a lot of content out there that talks about needing, you know, $1.5, $2 million to retire. But let's look at the numbers, okay? The median retirement savings for a household that's between the ages of 55 and 64 is about $185,000, okay? So that's not even $1 million, okay? And many of these folks, when they hit retirement, which in retirement, when you're 65 to 74 years of age, it's about $200,000. And many retirees do report feeling very, very good about their retirement, even though they have those lower amounts saved, okay? So it's not a bad thing if you only have that amount of money. Because there are other things out there. There's Social Security, there's maybe working part-time or doing some things to help actually bridge the gap there. So it's not like it's all over if you're not making to 7 figures of savings. That's okay. That's okay. All right. Now, on the other side of things, I wouldn't say that if you're able to do more, do that. If you're able to start sooner, do that. But you can only take advantage of what you can take advantage of. If you're 30, start from there. Again, the wealth multiplier at 30, $23.06. If you're 50, $2.85, almost $3. Just get in there. Start investing. Take advantage of your particular wealth multiplier and maximize it to the best of your ability. I hope that this one helps to get you off of the sidelines and to take advantage of your wealth multiplier and to get things going for you in terms of investing, okay? Now, I'll mention here that we have this capitalistic society. We have Wall Street and everything. I have that in the thumbnail. And there are many things about Wall Street and corporations and that sort of thing that I do have some criticism for. We have large wealth inequality here in the United States, where CEOs make, I think the statistic is 300-400 times more than the average employee. And these are some difficult things about capitalism. But there's one thing for sure. I didn't create this system and you didn't create this system. But this is the system. This is the way things go, okay? And again, If you're using an Apple phone, if you are eating at McDonald's every once in a while, if you go to Walmart to pick up some products, okay, or all these different companies, you're using Facebook for social media, or you're using Google to actually search things, or now AI. If you're using any of that stuff, these are the companies that make up the investments that can make a change in your life. Take advantage of it. You may not be able to change everything about the capitalistic system to your particular advantage, but you can invest and you can take advantage of your wealth multiplier. Again, if you find my content valuable, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Now go ahead also and leave in the comments what you think about the wealth multiplier, okay, and your particular age. Take a look. I'm going to put in the notes what the wealth multipliers are at different ages. Take advantage of this. Build your wealth for your future. Thanks.